and I am super excited to have him here on the show today, where we'll be discussing the senses, obviously, the importance of our sense of smell, which I know is a key area of interest in Barry's research, as well as looking at multisensory dining experiences and what this may mean going into the future. Barry, thank you ever so much for joining us on the podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. For those that maybe aren't as well acquainted as I am with your work, give me a bit of an idea of what it is that, what kind of research you guys do at the Center for the Study of the Senses.
So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very glad to talk to you. So at the Center for the Study of the Senses, we got together a team of philosophers, psychologists, and neuroscientists to investigate the way our senses work and the way they interact. And we were motivated by two thoughts, really. One, that we have many more than 5 senses, and that our senses don't work separately. They're constantly interacting to affect one another's workings. So as we started to look at different kinds of sensory interactions, taste, smell, and flavor in my case, and other people looking at sight and touch and hearing and sight, we opened 2 labs, which is an unusual thing to do in an Institute of Philosophy, which I direct at the University of London, but it became very obvious that we were attracting interest from perfumers, filmmakers, and especially from people in the food and drink industry who were a little bit behind you, Joseph, but trying to see that the idea of multisensory experience was actually going to have a huge impact on the way they thought about what they were doing and how they could deliver it.
And this sounds like it was all really kind of multidisciplinary in the way that it came about. But was that the initial intention? Did you know that there would be so many different disciplines that would be able to come together in this meaningful way?
I think so. I mean, I had been writing in an amateur way for the press about wine, and there I was prosing on about how we enjoyed the taste of wine, some of the attractions of it, some of the qualities of it. And then I thought, I better find out how taste actually works. So I talked to friends in psychology and neuroscience, and actually Professor Charles Spence, who you know very well and who you work with at Kitchen Theory, Charles and I sat down in a cafe in Paris for a very long time and started to talk about all the things that were involved in our taste or experience of food. It wasn't just taste, it was touch, taste, smell. It could be impacted by the sounds around us, by the colors of things that we were eating or eating off. And I suddenly realized, we have to think again, and we'll need many people to look at the senses. And philosophers had for a long time thought of, the classic 5. So seeing, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, that's it. And then, of course, neuroscientists will say, we have at least 22 or 33 senses. And I thought, gosh, okay, we will need a lot of people in this inquiry if we're going to figure out.
And what would some of those senses include? So what are the other senses that we maybe take for granted?
Yeah, I mean, one to think of immediately is proprioception. If people right now were to close their eyes, they would know where their limbs are without either looking or feeling them. They can tell from the inside.
Right, okay.
And your sense of balance, which is terribly important. If people have problems with their sense of balance, the world seems very strange. So your sense of balance it involves proprioception. It involves knowing where your body is, but it also involves the little ear canals we have, the vestibular system that tell us whether we're tilting backwards or going sideways or up or down in a lift. And they work along with vision to give you stability and balance. But most importantly for you and me, I think, are the fact that many of the things that we think of as a single sense actually can be broken down into many senses. So we have touch is it's pain, it's temperature, it's the feel of something, it's the sensations it gives to you. It can be the tingling of spice. It can be the cooling sensation in the mouth. So once you realize that it's not a single sense, it's in fact hovering across 5 or 6 different systems, then we begin to see what they are and how they interact.